Okay, it's the end of this session. I'm here. You can't see, but Honey is at my feet. Chihiro's over there, and then Ebony is on the couch, I believe. And this is their roadmap to success. So basically, the main reason I was called in here was Chihiro is a pretty confident dog and gets along well with the other. Chihiro and Honey are siblings, and they're Shiba Inus. That's kind of a double, I don't say problem, but issue that could come up. And so Honey, there were some health issues, coronavirus happened, one of the guardians in the house lost her job, and all this stuff happened right around the same time that Honey started going after Ebony. And so from the course of the session, it turned out that really the dogs didn't have any rules. They're under-exercised, under-stimulated. Honey is in a kennel for too long, and they get to tell their humans when to pet them. So they really don't have any structure. And so I think the dogs gradually became more and more thinking, my job is to be the guard dog. When I go to the dog park, that's what I do. I yell at the humans. I try to herd them. I bark at the other dogs. When people come in, I bark at them. And so the dogs think that that's how what they're doing to contribute. When dogs are a member of your group, they want to kind of help out a little bit. And so I asked the guardians, one of the things I asked was, what could the dogs do to make you to contribute your group? And they really couldn't come up with anything other than like a little bit of warmth during the wintertime. But that's not really substantive for the dog. So dogs need to know what they can do to make us happy. So one of the things I went over was petting with a purpose and capturing, or what I like to call passive training. So petting with a purpose, and this is really important if you have Shiba Inus, because I think they're the most cat-like dogs there is. They just don't really care. Well, they're very aloof, maybe is a better way to put it. So the Shiba Inu, the way I explain Shiba Inus to people, they're like, Shiba Inus are like, if you petting me makes you feel good, that's so good for you. They just really don't care. And so these dogs, because they didn't have any rules and structure, that was really amplified. So the dogs will come if you have a treat, but besides, short of that, no. So what I'd like the guardians to do is to start petting them with a reason or petting with a purpose. In our society, leaders tell people what to do, or others, and followers ask. So you don't go tell your boss, hey, I'm taking a week off work. You go to the boss and you kind of give them a compliment and say, you know what, hey, the family's going down to Mexico and I'd like to go down there. You think I could have a week off work? If you catch the dogs on a good day, might happen. You say, hey, buddy, I'm going to Mexico. No, you're not. If you go, you're not going to have a job when you get back. So the dogs are kind of coming up and just kind of pawing or nudging the guardians, telling them to pet me. So what I like the guardians now is next time the dog paws them, instead of petting the dog, give the dog a counter order and tell it to sit. If it's already sitting here, tell it to sit over here or tell it to lie down. Don't tell it to shake. The dog has 2 seconds to sit or to lay down, whatever the cue is. If the dog sits within that 2 seconds, then I reach over and pet it. I like to pet dogs under the chin, on the chest, or on either shoulder. I noticed that when one of the guardians reached over to pet Honey, she reached over her head and she kind of ducked her head. Honey also has her ears going back quite a bit and she's kind of jittery. I think part of that is being in the kennel a little bit too long, but I think a lack of confidence is also a contributing factor. When dogs feel good about themselves, their nose is in the air. So when you're petting your dogs for petting with the purpose of capturing, I want you to try to pet them under here. I want the dog to be like, yes, I sat down. Look how proud I am of sitting down. I feel my nose is in the air. So if the dog comes up and nudges you and tells you what to do, you give the dog a counter order, tell it to sit or to lie down. If it sits or lies down within 2 seconds, then you're going to use your marker word of bien and then pet the dog. If it does not do it within 2 seconds, I want you to pull out your phone and play a little video game, read some emails, talk to your friends, get on the computer, watch TV, talk to family, whatever it is. Show the dog, I'm living my best life. I have other things I can do. Doesn't bother me that you didn't listen to me. I'm on to the next thing. I'm not short of anything. The dog is missing out on the reward. The dog's not getting rewarded because it didn't do what we wanted to do. This is a nice way to start creating a motivation for the dog to want to listen. And after enough repetition, the dog will come up and start sitting in front of us to prepay for the attention, because that's what you keep on asking me to do. And when the dog does that, make sure you pet the dog. Otherwise, the dog will go back to nudging you or barking or all the rest of that stuff. So now remember to use the watchword of paycheck if you suspect someone is petting without a purpose. So if I'm petting Chihiro and one of the family members comes in and says paycheck, I would stop petting even if I did it right. I would say sit. If the dog sits, I pet it on the chin. I'd say bien, and then I would say, actually, I asked her to sit before you came in the room. When you opened the door, she stood up and I continued petting, but thank you, I do forget to pet without a purpose. It'll take the humans about 2 months to get in the habit of doing this. After a while, you'll do it automatically. Now, I like to use a hand motion. So if this is the dog's head, this is the nose. What I do is I hold my hand like this, like it's like I have a treat in it, but I'm selling it. So I'm not holding it like this. I want to have like the pretend treat. And a lot of times you have a treat in here. So I start off at nose level. If you're going from here, that creates a longing. A lot of dogs will jump up. So I like go like, if I go down to their nose level, I go like here, and then I go and arc up, and I get up they often put their butt down. As soon as their butt hits down, then I would say, bien, then I would pet them or give them that treat. So if the dog walked up to me, I could say, I could go like this, a motion into a sit, pet it while I continue doing this video or talking to somebody else without interrupting my flow. So petting with a purpose will increase the dog's respect for the humans. It will help it practice basic behaviors like sitting and laying down. It will boost the dog's confidence because it's earning its attention. It will also make the pets from the humans more valuable because the dog can't get them for no reason. It has to do something to earn them. We also went over capturing. Capturing is the easiest way to train any dog. I call it passive training. It's basically waiting for the dog to do the behavior that you want voluntarily. And this is especially prominent in dogs like Shiba Inus. Eastern Asian dogs, pointed ears, are very aloof. Akitas, Huskies, they kind of do what they want to do unless you create a strong motivation. So if I say, come here and get a treat, the dog's like, no. By not coming to you, I maintain your interest in me. So for capturing, what I do is I'm just sitting here watching TV, hanging out, and the dog walks up to me. I say, bien, when it walks up to me on its own. I didn't show it I have a treat. I didn't ask it to come. But when it did something I wanted, I said bien to tell it, yes, I like it when you come to me. And that's a great way to get my attention. If we're in a relationship with somebody and we're on our first date, if I'm on a first date with a girl and I start talking about how like guns and blowing things up and fireworks, the girl doesn't say, tell me more about blowing things up. She goes like this. Yes, no, are there any of the cute boys in here that I can flirt with? So she disengages to say, I'm not interested in that. Then I say, you know what, I also teach puppy classes. Oh my God, I love puppies. So we're doing the same thing. We're telling the dog that coming, sitting, laying down, we're going to stretch, bien. Going into the dog bed, dog kennel, going to the dog bed. We're going to start marking it by saying bien, and then offering the dog a pet or affection. And after a while, if I can predict the dog's going to the dog bed, I might say, Kazabel, and the dog goes in the dog bed, and then I go give it, and I say bien when it gets in there, and I give it a treat. So eventually I create a command word or a cue to go and do something, and I contract with the dog. If you go to the dog bed, I will hook you up with a treat. But if I just say Cozumel, they don't know what that means. I have to kind of create a situation where they go in there, bien, and that happens enough time in a row, and then I say, I motion towards it, and they say, oh, he must want me to go there, or he's going to say bien again, but this time I say Cozumel, or whatever the word is, and the dog goes in there. It's kind of like we did in the video above. We said hunt as we threw the treat, then the dog, because I knew the dog was going to go get there. Now, if you don't know if the dog's going to come, don't say come, come, come. The more you say it, the less you mean it. And if I say come and the dog doesn't come to me, then I'm watering down the word. That's why we use a marker word instead of the command cue. We don't use the command cue until the dog's done it quite a bit. That's nice, and that's the most relaxed I've seen Honey so far. Now, she laid down under the table, which is also an indication of where she feels comfortable. Now, a couple things I like the Guardians to do. I like them to get an X pen, letter X, P-E-N. You can get them on Amazon or Chewy. They're going to be cheaper than if you go to a pet store. And you want to get one, I mean, I would try to measure one out that's about the same height as, underneath your table. Because you have a nice table here in the middle of the room, and it's a nice way to put this X pen. So what we'd like to do is create some safe zones. Because I think the humans are concerned that Honey is going to go after Ebony. And so that creates tension. And the dogs can just sense the tension. They don't know where it's coming from or what it's directed at. So they don't realize that they're the source of the tension. So if we set up this X pen underneath the table, make sure you get one with a door. So the dog can walk in and out of it, and you can latch the door, just like the kennel. It'll be wire, it'll look just like your kennel. And then basically throw it, and if the dog doesn't want to go in there, open the door, show the dog you have a treat, throw a treat in there. As soon as the dog jumps in there, say bien. And then eventually you could say, Disneyland, and throw the treat. Disneyland means go into the pen underneath the table. And so now we've created a situation where the dog wants to go in there. We can put bully sticks or, I learned a different word for how to say that word, or treats or kneecaps, lick mats, things like that. What I'd like Honey and Ebony to do is start sharing positive experiences together in a scenario where the humans don't have any apprehension that a fight is going to occur. So if we have the X pen, we know that Honey cannot get to Ebony or vice versa. So one might be in, one might be out. Probably switch it up, unless one of them really doesn't want to be in there. And then basically what we can do, and if you actually secure this here, you could probably put Honey in here. We also talked about putting a board over there and kind of creating a partition so that Honey could hang out in the kitchen. Right now, Honey's in the kennel for a little longer than I would like. And they have to do that because we want to make sure that Ebony stays safe, obviously, but I think that's creating an anxiety because it's releasing cortisol if the dog's in a kennel for longer than 4 hours. And the dogs are also under-exercised. We'll talk about that in a sec. So basically, if we have this X pen under the table, and we also take them for walks together. So go to a neighborhood, doesn't have to be too far, doesn't have to be a trail, and remember letting them sniff as much as possible. What we want to have is another human here, and the dogs on the outside. So the dogs can both smell things, they can hear things, they're walking forward, which helps them process things. That's also nice and relaxed at my feet. And they're also doing something together they both enjoy. We're creating a positive experience. If there is another fight, separate them. And once they've settled down, take them for a walk together as soon as you possibly can. We want to create that positive association. Walks are important, and remember the dogs burn more energy. You want to walk by sniffing them from walking. But these dogs were getting, before Corona and everything went down, maybe a walk about twice a week or so. These dogs probably each need at least, I would like to see close to an hour's worth of exercise a day, but a bare minimum, I'd like to see each dog going for a 6-minute walk minimum twice a day. Now, Ebony can go probably a little bit less, but it'll be helpful for her as well. And I would like the walks to go Ebony and Honey together to build that positive association. It just clears their head. They get a new environment. It's really beneficial. Remember, let them sniff as much as long as it's safe to do so. The cookie in the corner is a great way. You can go to Google and Google scent games, SCENT. Don't be thrown off if it talks about cadavers. You don't have to have dead bodies to do scent games. There's other things you can do. But basically, the video above will kind of show you how to do how to introduce a cue, and then you can start hiding treats in cupboards and different places. The dog has to use his nose to find it. That's very draining of energy. I'd also like the guardians to get a couple Kongs that we can fill up with peanut butter. And so if one of the dog is inside the long-term confinement, the X pen, the other dog is right outside of it. And so they're both enjoying the lick mat, would be another thing I'd like you to get. Lick mats are a little bit better than Kongs in some capacities because they have suction cups. So you can put them and they can take a Kong here or there. The suction pads keep those lick mats so you can kind of position them. Now, if there's any staring or growling or one dog won't do it, then you need to increase the distance. Increasing the distance between dogs, is the best thing that you can do when they're reactive. But if we get a couple lick mats and smear peanut butter on it, and once a day, Ebony and Honey have a shared experience with the partition between them, and at first maybe they're 20 feet apart, maybe Ebony's right over there in the kitchen and the other one's right here, but gradually get them closer and closer. Now be careful with bully sticks and some stuff that you're getting too close about. Dogs have what's called an intimate space, which is a 3-foot bubble. They're very particular what comes into the 3-foot bubble. So I wouldn't push it past that. But the idea is at first maybe we have the lick mat in there and one in the kitchen. Then we have a lick mat there and one over by the piano, then one over here. So we're kind of doing it in different areas. And then also do the same thing in the kitchen. You can also use a leash. I don't like using a leash as much because they can put tension on and that can create frustration. But if you maybe have the leash around the leg of the table, the kid table right here, and then we have Ebony over here. That way she can kind of be without the long-term confinement area, and we can practice in different parts of the house. Remember, dogs have to do a lot of variety before they can start kind of generalizing things. If you just only practice in one location, they won't be able to do it in other locations. So let me see. I'd also like the guardians, once the dogs are kind of having it, you could actually be over at the piano and throw a treat way over there. The dog has to run all the way over there and get it, and then you show them have another treat, and they run all the way back to the piano, get another treat, and you're doing relays. Well, that's a nice way to burn some energy as well. You could also, I'd like the guardians to get a snuffle mat, actually a couple snuffle mats, and Omega Tricky Trainer Treat Ball, the orange ball that I showed you. Having the dogs work for their food is another way to burn some energy and give them something to do. So instead of just going eating in my bowl right away, the 2 Shibas are doing that, and for Ebony, we probably would have her, because she's a little bit more finicky and she's older. Now, if we can get her to do it, that'd be great, but remember that trick about adding, get some bouillon, boil it, and then pour it in a tray of empty ice cube tray. Freeze it, and then for each meal, you pop one of those ice cubes out, microwave it, and it melts it and warms it up, and then you put it in with Ebony's food, swirl her food around, put it down. Should be pretty interested, and it's going to increase the temperature and make it a little bit tastier. And that'll help with her hydration as well. Let me see. We also went over hand targeting, and so the sisters really want to do it together, but it'd be nice if one of you is in the bedroom with one, and I think if you separate, it might be a little bit easier. So remember, as you throw your hand, you're going to say boop, and then when the dog touches its nose to your hand, you say bien, then you put the treat on your hand. Now, a lot of people go, and I saw this happen a couple times here, and the dog touched it, and they came back here to put the treat here. Once you throw your hand is frozen. Now, you want to start off on either side of the dog's face at nose level. Don't do it up too high. Now, if I throw my hand here, and the dog looks at it but doesn't go back, I usually pull back and I chop a little bit closer. And the progression, I want the dog to first turn, then lean, then take one step, and then take multiple steps. But eventually you could have the dog way over here and say, boop, the dog runs across. So again, for a lot of dogs, oh, come to you? A lot of times come means the end of fun. I'm having a great time yelling at this damn parakeet in the kitchen. And you say, come, and if I come to you, you're going to put me in the kennel. I'm not going to do that. Boop, oh yeah, I'll come and shove my nose on your hand. It's accomplishing the same thing, but we're using a different mechanism. Now, don't do that too often, because if you do, then it'll stop working as well. But that's a nice way to interact, and it helps the dogs kind of, it's a nice way to get them engaged. You can also move them and manipulate them without having to manhandle them. And eventually you can use touch stick targeting and some other things. Now, I would love to get Claire. I have a level 1 trainer, Claire, and she works at a lot lower of a price point than I work. I'd like to have Claire come by for 3 one-hour sessions of showing you guys how to do the relaxation protocol, which teaches the dog to stay on a dog bed as we do silly things around them. And it is really profound. Now, she'll come by 3 times, and she'll give you a checklist of 15 days worth of exercises. And I want everybody in the house to do it once with each dog per day. And you'd be amazed. You could have like the UPS truck, you could be ringing the doorbell, you could be knocking or whatever it is, and the dog has been conditioned to sit there. So I think with Claire's rate, I think it's about $105 for 3 sessions. So it's a really good value, and I think it would be really beneficial. So you could have a dog bed over there with one of them, another one practice here, another one practice in the kitchen. You're on your own with the bird. Actually, I do have somebody that works with me that does work with birds, and so she can help you with that if you want to. She works with cats, birds, horses, and dogs. So let us know about that. Her name is Laura. But basically, all animals kind of have a similar learning theory. But basically, if you can teach them and help them practice relaxing while this stimulation gradually gets more and more intense, that might also really be more profound and help with these dogs. Now, the treats that I were using are Tricky Trainers, the soft and chewy, and I'm going to leave the bag of those here. The other treats, the round ones that I was using, are called Charlie Bears, and that's CHRLEE Bears. And you can get those on Amazon or Chewy. They come in different flavors. I can't remember which flavor this is, but I think they'll like most of them. Also, remember, good attention and bad attention is the same thing. So if we are consistently correcting our dog for doing the wrong thing, and we're inconsistent about petting it when it comes to us or sits or lies down, it's going to do the wrong behavior, because that is a guarantee to get your attention sitting. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. That's why I started off by talking about petting with the purpose and capturing our passive training. And these dogs really responded well to it. At first they said sit, and the guardian told them to sit, and they were like, you must be crazy. And by the end of the session, they were using that hand motion, and the dogs were sitting. And don't be afraid to use jealousy. So if you tell Honey to sit and she doesn't, but Chihiro does. One more time. Chihiro. I keep on screwing it up. But if Chihiro sits and Honey doesn't, it's probably the other way around, then give Chihiro that treat. And after a while, Honey's like, I'm missing out. Why didn't I sit down? And when they both sit down, they can tear the treat in half and both give them both one of them. But make sure that you're marking and using that command cue. And the marking word, until eventually you're consistent. Then you can say hunt as you throw it, or sit and lure them into a sit. Or if they're about to stretch, you can say stretch, and then they go into stretch and they say bien and give them that treat. But the more you pet them and reward them for the things that you want, the more they're going to offer those behaviors. You're going to also simultaneously increase their confidence, and you're going to give them other things that they can do. Speaking of which, go into YouTube, and Claire can show you some other stuff if you have Claire back. But positive reinforcement, you don't want to use any punishment, especially for Shiba Inus. They really shut down and just are like, F you, I'm not going to deal with it. So dogs don't really learn through punishment or correcting or yelling at them and things like that. I'm not saying the guardians here do that, but there's a lot of trainers that use those sort of force-based methods. What I'd like you to do is go to YouTube, figure out how to teach my dog to walk in a circle. How do I teach my dog to do a play bow? How do I teach it to sit pretty? Play dead. The more tricks and commands, when we learn a new skill, we sit a little bit higher in the chair, we carry our chin a little bit higher, we feel better about ourselves. Same principle applies to dogs. So I'd love to see you guys pick a trick that, you know what, we're going to teach the dogs to sit pretty. All week long, all of us are going to be working on this trick with all the dogs throughout the week. At the end of the week, you want me to pet you? Sit pretty. Goes this, and then we pet them, and then we allow them to do whatever it is. So the more that you teach them tricks and commands, you have different ways of redirecting them, but you're also boosting their self-esteem and also increasing their confidence in you and their respect for you as a leader, because you're the one that helped teach them that. Now, we also talked about rules. I would recommend that the dogs are not allowed to be around the humans when they're eating. So let me see. Also, Premax. So if you want me to pet you, sit, and I'll pet you. That's a little bit of petting with a purpose. You want me to let you out of the kennel. Go to the kennel door and say, sit. Let's say that Honey sits and Chihiro doesn't, then I would let Honey out and not So I'm rewarding the dog that does what I want. But I'm only going to ask once. The dog has 2 seconds to do it. If it doesn't do it, then I sit down, wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, I go back and I tell Honey to sit. If she sits, then I would pet her. And if she doesn't sit, then I'm on to the next thing. But like for letting them out of the kennel, if you have any of the bedroom doors closed, they have to sit, and if they don't sit, then you go in the room, but you close the door behind you, and they can't do that. I would also do that for, as Honey is, Chihiro is trying to get on the couch right now with the bed. He's putting his chin up there saying, I really want on the couch. Well, the guardian say, hey, all you got to do is sit. And if you want to sit, as soon as you sit, I'm going to invite you up here. But if you don't sit, then I'm not going to let you on the couch. This is a privilege for good behavior and creating more of that motivation for the dogs to want to listen to them. All right, Chihiro. Also remember, if you hold your hand like this, the lower you go, can't see right now, but both the Shibas are right here. The lower you go, the more the dog thinks it's for you. But make sure you don't go like this and show them that you don't have anything. Curl your fingers up a little bit, and as I go down, I curl them up a little bit more. But every once in a while, have a treat in your hand. Remember, the best way to treat them is inconsistency, when they never know the treat's coming or not. Well, this is Ebony, Honey, and Chihiro's roadmap to success. Remember, when it comes to dogs, everything you do trains them. Only sometimes you mean it.